Designated Survivor season finale, brace for impact. This is a pretty good season finale. It wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be. It was actually, I won't say it was like a normal episode. It was close to it, but there's definitely some stuff that they did in here that was obviously more intense. Specifically, Hannah chasing down Lazano. Unfortunately, things repeating for them. They got their lead ultimately at the end because they did end up getting the traitor within the White House. But I was like, man, every time they try to make something work for them, it fails. Like, they try to catch the guy in the beginning of the episode, they search the compound and everything, his giant mansion. He ends up going through like this super secret tunnel in a closet, so he escapes. Hannah ends up finding out that Lazano went to the Pentagon, so she's headed there. She ends up seeing him. They do a crazy car chase. Then they have a crazy fight, which was very cool. I love that whole sequence. Like, they end up in like the abandoned like project area. So that was pretty awesome. And they're fighting in this house, and he ends up dying. It was just like before, and it was like, they're right there. They got the lead, and she kicks him through a little wall, and he falls on some beams, and there's just 3 spikes. I'm like, I don't think he's gonna live either. So he's toast. So he gets taken out. But I still love the way they went throughout the episode, because we have stuff happening where, the way they kind of end things is kind of on, it was sort of an episodic kind of note, because it was like the way it ended, it was just like they ultimately killed off, like, really the face of everything was, it was like McLeish and Lazano were like the 2 faces in this first season, and then, like, we just got introduced to the guy actually running things only a few episodes back. So the 2 main faces that were kind of a part of the season with McLeish and Lazano, both of them are gone now. So they've both been killed. The other 2 faces that have come in are the leader and then the traitor. The traitor's been caught by the end of this episode, which is really good. But of course, the man on top has, they even said at the end, like, he's got so much money, he can pretty much go anywhere in the world without setting off, anything. So I like the way that they kind of did that, where it's like, all right, they got rid of, like, our first 2 faces, and now we have our second, set of faces, one of which has been captured. We still have our journalist doing everything that he can to put out the answers, and is referenced, in this episode, like, all right, well, I'll hold off, but not permanently. And things ultimately end up playing out okay, because Kirkman kind of tells everybody, like, this is exactly what happened, so ultimately it's fine. But I'm very excited to see where they go with season 2, now that they have, like, a singular villain. I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out, and how that kind of changes up the tactics, and where they go with this sort of design of, they had characters that were inside the White House. That was kind of the big thing, was like all the enemies were like right there. So now this guy is like taking off. Is he gonna like send back a bunch of assassins? Is he just gonna stay on the run? Are they gonna have to like start sending Hannah out to all these random places to try to track him down? So I feel like it's gonna add a new element in season 2 with kind of a world hopping sort of element to the series. So could be wrong about that. I of course don't know, but I feel like that's kind of where it's headed, where this guy is able to escape, and maybe he'll just stay stay gone. So who knows how that'll play out. But I am excited for where we're headed, and I definitely think they did some cool stuff in this. I would have loved it if Lazano actually got captured, because I was like, man, that's one of the things with this show where, at least like the worst people, to me personally, are the ones that end up dying. Like McLeish, I would have loved if he got captured, but he ends up dying, him and his wife. And especially Lazano, considering he killed Jason, I would have loved for him to have just flat out been captured, and then maybe something happened afterwards. I would have been cool with that, but it really sucked that he did that. So I was kind of like, I don't know, I was in like a weird moment where I was like, I kind of want him to suffer a little bit more, because they were kind of just in the heat of the moment, and so it was just kind of a fluke that he ended up dying. So it was like, oh man, something about that didn't, I was like, for some reason I don't feel satisfied enough with that punishment for him, which is crazy because he died. But I don't know, I don't know, it was just, for me, I was like, man, I kind of wish he got captured just so he could kind of suffer, because they captured the traitor, and that's the type of character I was like, I mean, obviously he's one of the villains, but I don't hate him like I hate Lazano, who killed off one of the main characters that I liked. So it wasn't the same sort of thing where it was like, man, if they could have reversed that, I would have been fine, because they both would have had the same level of information. Although personally, it probably wouldn't have worked as well for the story, because Lazano wouldn't have succumbed to any sort of torture or interrogation compared to this other guy, who I highly doubt has the same sort of training to withstand torture or anything like that. But I did really love the scene when he got captured, because Hannah finally gets back to her office. She talks with her buddy, and he's like, you got some emails and stuff. and I thought you should know one of them is from Jason Atwood. And when she checks it out, it does end up being the footage that he had from that laptop. And I did mention, I was like, maybe he could have actually had a signal out there, because it did look like a military laptop, and I was right. So I was happy that that ultimately did end up being the case, because I was like, it was just either one of two options. Either it was a military thing and he was able to send it, or he couldn't, and somehow they would end up finding that information if Lozano just didn't end up, checking the woods, which wouldn't make a lot of sense. But I was like, it's got to be one of those two options. Somehow they're going to have to get this information, otherwise he legitimately died for nothing. But it was really great to have that little moment come in, and she looks at all the pictures and she listens to the file, and so it kind of cuts back and forth between her listening and looking at these pictures to this dude just walking down the hall, and then he just gets cut off and is like, hey, can I talk with you? And of course he looks behind him and is just like, I'm busted, and that's pretty much all there is for him. So I definitely love the way that that scene played out. And, just the way things went in general with Kirkman, he kind of has like his big speech, and it's like, we know who it is, we have to find him, but we kind of have our answer as to what's truly happening here. And he gives, the big rousing speech and everything. And then it gets back to the serious stuff at the end, where it's like, all right, this is what happened, this is the information that Lozano took from the Pentagon, which leads to what I think is going to be really the biggest element that probably will kind of add to sort of the world hopping style of the next season, potentially at least. The fact that Lozano sent all of this very secret information, undercover agents, security and things like that, just troop movements, all this information is now in the hands of this man who wants to kind of, wipe out the government. So I'm very excited for where they're headed for season 2. I think this is a pretty good finale. I didn't think it was like as epic. It's just so windy outside. I didn't think it was as epic as it could have been for a season finale. I feel like it didn't have like that insanely explosive sort of ending, but it did lead to some really great stuff, because ultimately they do take out, like I said, one of the other first faces of the villains in Lozano. They capture the traitor, and now they know what the main threat is, which is, in an odd sense, it's kind of everything. Like, he has all this information. It could be anything that this guy wants it to be. He, like they mentioned, he can leverage it for himself. He can leverage it just for like all sorts of crazy things, or he can militarize it himself, sell it off to people. That's a really big thing, black market stuff. So there's so many different elements and directions that they could go in, and I'm sure they'll go in all of them, because he has so much, so many different types of information for things across the country as well as across the world. So it'll be very interesting to see how they utilize the information that he now has, and who's going to stay ahead of who in this crazy little race that they're going to be having. But I did enjoy the finale. Like I said, I didn't feel like it was an explosive sort of thing. It felt like it just was a normal episode ending, but at the same time I was like, yeah, I guess it's impossible to have like that explosive ending, because really they capture everybody except for the main guy, and then it leads to like the big cliffhanger really is the fact that it's revealed all the information that he got. So it's like they can't have really that explosive ending, so I kind of get it, but it was just like, oh man, that it sucks that it just ended, like boom, it just ended right there. So I was like, crap, we just gotta see what happens next. So I'm definitely excited for season 2. I hope the show gets to season 2. I don't think I looked up any information as to whether or not it's been renewed, but I think it's been popular enough, considering the show went on to have once a show in its first season has like hits the 20 episode mark, that means it's popular, because that means that this the channel actually ordered more episodes for that season. So that says a lot. Like, once a show in its first season goes, it's like, yeah, we ordered like a second half, that says a lot for a series. So the fact that it went up to 22 episodes, I believe this was the 22nd, that says a lot. So that means a lot of people were definitely watching it for it to have 22 episodes in its first season alone. That is huge. So that's a really big deal. So I'm pretty sure the show's fine. I don't think we need to worry about whether or not it'll get a season 2. So I am looking forward to it coming back in the fall. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this finale. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this first season of the series. Are you going to keep going with it? Odds are, if you made it this far, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone watching an entire season and be like, and just letting it go intentionally. So we'd love to know how you guys felt about this first season. Of course, I would love to know where you guys think we're headed for season 3, what elements we should expect. With us having like a main villain who's so elusive, I have to assume we're going to get someone else kind of put into the show as like a secondary villain who, you know, is probably hired by this guy, or maybe just comes into the fold, or just reveals himself, I guess, as a part of this organization. But that's kind of his whole thing at this point, is that they have his name, but he's so rich and so powerful, they can't find him. So I feel like they need a secondary face to, you know, the villain. So I feel like that's what we're going to have in season 2. We're going to get a new villain. But that's just me from like an enemy perspective. You can't just have the villain never show up, because he's always so far away that they can't get to him. So we need someone that's like the more immediate threat. That's just how TV works. So I don't need it personally, but that's kind of how TV works. They always kind of do it that way. So that's just kind of, that's my theory on what we're going to have. But as far as the information that's been released for, you know, anyone to basically buy up, it's hard to say where things will kind of start off for season 2, because there are like a million different elements. They could be like, we can choose this bad thing to happen to this bad thing. So they can start kind of at any point, but I do believe, at least, you know, like the one theory I truly have is that we're going to get a second villain for season 2, who will just be, you know, another right-hand man sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to it, but like I said, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this finale, what you guys thought about this, you know, the first season of this new series in general. And of course, I want to know your theories on where things are headed for season 2, so please comment below, let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.